Hi there! In this tutorial we're going to see two ways to cut the geometry and then cover it using a solid color first and then using a plane. These are two simple ways to do it. Let's start by using the technique from the previous tutorial. It's important that the geometry doesn't have inverted normals on the inside. As you can see, the code is very similar to the previous one, just that now we are using a function. We use the workspace again, and in this function we get the distance between the vertex and the plane. Here we are applying the border color to the cut edge. To get the fill color, we are going to apply a second shader in the next pass. This way we can apply different effects to the same geometry. I will name it Cut B. Next we're going to apply the render mode Cool Front, so we can see inside the geometry. I'm going to include the function file and then copy and paste some variables. They are the color, the noise, the world vertex and the cut plane. Then I'll use the world space to get the distance using the cut distance function. I pass the plane normal, the plane position, the world vertex, and the noise. Now I can cut the geometry. As you can see, I will assign a fill color and copy the noise texture, so that we get the same distortion inside and outside the object. As you can see, the geometry inside has been filled with a color, but we want it to be a flat color because we can still see the shape of the geometry, so I'm going to change to unshaded mode in order to have a solid color. Now it looks like a surface, but it's really the inner side of the object. It's important to assign a higher priority to the shader in the next pass. In this next geometry, we're going to do almost the same. The only difference is that this time I'm going to discard the noise texture, so I create a new shader and call it Fill. I am just going to copy and paste some variables, and I am going to change the vertices to world space. Then I load an external include file. As you can see, I've prepared a second very simple function that doesn't use noise. It's called fill distance. Now, I am going to use a different column of the matrix for the normal of the plane. I pass the position to the world vertex, and that's all. I am just going to copy and paste the code to discard the geometry. And here we have the cut. This is the script we have used in the previous tutorial. Now, what I am going to do is assign the geometry of a plane. I am going to assign a new shader material and a shader, and I am going to name it mask. I will set the render mode to unshaded, and I use the Screenwoofer to simulate that the plane is transparent. I see the flags, and now I set the Screenwoofer to albedo so I can see through the plane. As you can see. Let's work with the table again, and I'm going to apply its original texture. And I will select a color for the border. Now In the next pass, I'm going to assign a new shader and call it Field B. In this shader, I am just going to copy and paste the code because it's exactly the same. The difference is that we're going to use the inner color of the object as a mask for the plane. I just remove the noise texture and I change the border color. It's important to select a color that is different from the border color. Now, let's go back to the plane shader and I assign the Screenwoofer to a variable. I am going to explain what we are going to do with the Screenwoofer, and it's something very simple. We are going to take part of the Screenwoofer, that is the final rendering on the screen of all the objects, which corresponds to the plane. And we'll compare the color of each fragment with a uniform color variable. Next, we are going to take the distance between these two vectors in the RGB color space. From this, we are going to obtain a mask to hide part of the plane. So I declare the color variable to create the mask, and I will assign the same internal color that the table has. And now I can create the mask from the distance. I assign this to albedo. And as you can see, we need to filter the similar colors. And for this, I use the step function with a very low value. Now, I will just create a pattern using the sign function. But you can use any texture you want. And now I can use the mask to hide part of the plane, assigning it to the alpha value. So we get the cross-section effect that we want. I have to invert, and this is it.